Hi everyone. In this first short mini lecture, I'm just gonna go and think about a little bit why should we even study international politics. As you can see in the word cloud that you have in front of you, international politics really takes on a lot of different topics and processes that we may or may not always think about. Of course, we tend to think about war, peace, maybe terrorism, international political economy, so trade relations between countries, etc. But also, what about human rights or the global environment, and how do we control all that? This year, like no other, we are all aware of public health and how public health all around the world can affect life in every place of the world. What we see with the spread of the coronavirus and COVID-19 disease is almost unprecedented, although we had outbreaks of disease in the past. But because the world is so connected, the impact was quick and extremely disruptive to the global system and to local systems everywhere around the world. Things that we used to be able to do, travel, trade, do business with other countries very easily, are now limited. And it's not entirely clear when and how they are going to be smooth again. And so international politics, the agreements between countries and other actors like international organizations and multinational corporations and other transnational networks all impact our life wherever we live around the globe. This is especially true for people who live or work or reside in the United States. That is a country that has interests all over the world. I asked you as our first exercise in this class to look at this world map. This map is a political map. So it just represents the different countries and the difference in their sizes. You can see their locations, but as you can find on the discussion forum that we have online, many of you found still a lot of very interesting questions. For example, what are all these colors stand for? And is this really a true representation of the world? The answer to that question, to that last question, is that this is not an exact representation, and every map that you would look at would have some kind of a bias, political or cultural bias. There are very few world maps that are exact geographical representation of the world, and those are certainly not the most common ones that we are using. Another example here is a map that was drawn in 2018, and it represents population. So not just geographical size and location and differencing, but how populated countries are. And so you can see that India over here looks much larger than it is when we are just looking on the geographical representation. And a country like the United States all of a sudden looks much more equal to other countries around the world than it is appearing in this map over here. Of course, there are other countries that are much less populated as compared to their geographical size. Look at Canada, for example, Australia, and other countries here. I wonder if you like this map better than this map. And of course, there are other ways to think about international politics or to draw the world map. Global politics is this conversation or discussion about who gets what and when all around the world, and who make those decisions. It can impact everything from our wealth, our financial health, the physical environment, global environment, climate change, water pollution, air pollution, all of those things, to personal security. That comes down to human rights, what am I allowed and not allowed to do, all the way to actual wars and conflicts and violent exchanges between groups and even countries. So when we study international politics, we are thinking more about the discipline, the sub-discipline of political science that is called international relations. And here we can think about the leadership of countries, how decisions are being made, what countries are considered to be more or less powerful, how do we make those measurements, and many other of those items. We cannot ignore the phenomena of globalization, which for many years now define the world and the relations and connections between us. Once again, if we go back to the COVID-19 example, you can very easily see how globalization works here. From the spread of the disease to the impact on different parts of the world and the limitation and the breaks in the chains of globalization that came as a reaction to COVID-19. All of that is playing for us right now. Something that's very important to remember and consider when we study international politics is that, yes, of course, this is about relationship between nation states, between countries, but not just, because there are other global or international actors that play in this game of international politics. So we have states, nation states, and when I say states, or when we read about states here, we mean countries rather than the US separate states. But states are also different in size and in power and how much influence they have on international politics. Aside from them, there are intergovernmental organizations that their membership are those different countries, such as the United Nations, for example. There are also non-governmental organizations. Think about a group such as Greenpeace. It's non-governmental. Their members are people, the public, other interested parties, but they are still very influential in international politics. We have multinational corporations, some as big as Walmart, which has, if compared to other countries, it will be in the top 10 largest economies in the world. Of course, a corporation, multinational corporation, MNC, like Walmart, has a great impact on international politics. And then we have different transnational networks. Some of those you can think about terror organizations that operate all around the world. They are transnational. They transcend borders, and they're not depending on interaction between those other entities, between those other actors. But they are still and are influential in the world. And then finally, we can even think about some individuals. Think about Bono from U2, who as a person has been for many years very influential on international politics and especially on development programs in Africa. When we study international politics, we try to identify patterns and we try to build on theories that explain how the world works and what do countries and other actors really try to achieve and do when they interact with each other. We will learn in the next unit about theories, about how do we try to understand what are we seeing. Is the world more conflictual? Can countries and other actors work with each other? What is the role that culture plays? We have theories that try to explain all of those things. And so what I challenge you to do right now is to think, for example, how does international politics and the world around us, either this world or that world, or any other representation of the world that you like, impact your own life?